To read the Bible in a year, you need 30 minutes to listen or read and 5 days each week. Join us here at St.Andrews for Bible in a Year.
We're in week 38, and you know what? I just feel like it's time to finish 2 Kings and 2 Chronicles.
Perfectly fine.
I understand that 2 Kings is technically not completed in this week.
It's close enough.
But it's very close. And when I finish 2 Chronicles, I'm like, let's just do it. So I feel like maybe if we pick up in 2 Kings 17.
Oh, we're going back a ways.
A little bit. I think that sort of starts the final spiral. And it's interesting because, like, I learned that Judges, the book of Judges, when one of cycles, they kept going around and around. But boy, does Kings and Chronicles feel like that too, right?
Smaller spiral.
Smaller, yes. Every time there's a new king.
Yeah, the bouts of, we have a good king, keep getting less and less and less.
Yes. But every time there's a new king, right, it gives this introduction, and then it'll say very clearly either he did what was good in the sight. Is that it? He did what was good in the sight of the Lord, or he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. There's a phrase. It's a very clear phrase.
He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord.
Yeah.
And then...
And did not walk in the ways... Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So we start off here in 17 with Hoshea.
Not to be confused for the dyslexic with Hosea.
Yep, right. There's an H there. Mm-hmm. I'm going to hold on to it. Began to reign in Samaria over Israel. And it's interesting that it's Samaria, right? I mean, because that's going to have a lot different contextual culture after the exile.
Right.
And he became a vassal to the king of Syria.
Which is not continued, that's the direction that the kings of Israel are headed in, is they're just going to become vassals. Puppets.
Right. But this is the first time, right?
As far as I know, this is the first time, and then I think it's in Chronicles we get the last one.
Yes.
With the conquering of Israel.
Yes.
Because whoever that was...
Well, Judah.
Oh, yeah.
The conquering of Judah.
Right. Sorry. I was thinking Israel meant what is Jerusalem and Judah. Yes.
Where's my other... Oh, no. My bookmark fell out. For the end of 2 Chronicles.
But on that note, there is still that delineation. The northern kingdom of Israel, the southern kingdom of Judah, being what is Jerusalem and the surrounding territory.
Yes, so they're still there. But he becomes a vassal to Assyria, and he's giving him all of this stuff. But then he offered no tribute to the king of Assyria as he'd done the other years, basically giving these huge gifts of riches and wealth. And so the king of Assyria shut him out and put him in prison. And then the king of Assyria invaded all the land and came to Samaria for 3 years and besieged it. So here Assyria invades Israel. And if this is your first time going through the Bible, this may... Okay, so otherwise, many of us, I won't say most, have been reading this saying, oh, it's coming, it's coming. But there's the Assyrian exile and the Babylonian exile.
And both of them are affecting the two different kingdoms. But then you also have what is going to be the politics and changeovers of Assyria and... Oh, Babylon. Jeez.
Okay, I was like, what are you talking about?
Which wonderfully that's not the right word. I don't know, there's a neat Greek connection with Xerxes and Esther, and was Esther the queen of...
Which certainly has to be coming soon.
Yes, but that's later in the exile. But you have
Yes.
Xerxes who
And
invades
Daniel's
Greece.
in the exile.
Right.
Yeah.
So there are these wonderful and beautiful
And
connections.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are in the exile.
But we have to get into exile. And this is that moment. This is all of the kingdoms are falling apart.
Yes, so Israel falls to Assyria. And I didn't look up that exact date, but the Assyrian exile starts in around 733 BC. So for context here, the Babylonian exile is Judah. So this will be basically everyone except Judah in the Assyrian exile. And then the Babylonian exile, which is Judah, so that's basically everyone, is 605.
And Babylon is Nebuchadnezzar, right?
Babylon is Nebuchadnezzar. Yes. And Assyria is Shalmaneser. Right? That's what it's saying here in 17. But is there another one at the time they get exiled? Because we see this. Okay, so as we go through 17, we then have the fall of Israel. Assyria captured Samaria, and he carried the Israelites away to Assyria. That's verse 6. That's the start of the exile. And then 7 through 12 give the reason, right? And it's all the things we've heard. Mm-hmm. You know, this occurred because they sinned against the Lord who brought them up from Egypt, walked in the customs of the nations that the Lord drove out before them. They built for themselves high places. They set themselves pillars. They did wicked things. They served idols.
Everything that Israel was supposed to be established against,
Yes.
they have adopted, even right down to child sacrifice again, and all of the false gods, all of the high places, all of everything they weren't supposed to do. It's just returning with the people with it. Yeah.
And they had all the warnings from all the prophets. It talks about in verse 13. But then in verse 18, it ends saying, none was left but the tribe of Judah only.
Which is that southern kingdom in Jerusalem.
So Judah remains. Verse 19. Judah also did not keep the commandments of the Lord.
Exile is coming.
Yeah. So this is what we have in the end. Like, we've gone through all of these cycles, and here the cycles are spiraling out. But, okay, this story was really interesting, though. So starting in verse 24, it talks about... We're still in 17. 17 is like this huge chapter. People from Babylon, from Hamath, from these other places I don't know, came to the city of Samaria and, took possession and lived there. But they did not fear God, and God sent lions among them. So as the king of Assyria is told, the nations have been carried away and placed in these cities, and God has sent lions among them. He said, send back one of the priests that you carried away from there and let him go and teach them the law of the God of that land.
I actually missed that.
Isn't that fascinating?
That's funny. That's good.
So, and this, it almost speaks to the, pluralistic religious, thing of that. Okay, there's another God. Because it even has God lowercase here.
The idea that there's territories with their own deity.
Yes. So he's like, okay, take one and teach them about that deity. And he taught them how to fear the Lord, but every nation still made gods of its own. So we still have this, God now just gets stuck among all the other gods. But that was really fascinating. Especially the lions, and, Daniel and the Lion's Den is such a story we know. Yeah.
Yeah. But then, if we skip ahead down into 18,
yes,
we're
let's
back
go to 18.
into Judah. We're in the southern kingdom. And we get Hezekiah.
Yeah, what do you think about Hezekiah?
I love Hezekiah. Just this moment where I might be mixing up the kings, but he's the one who turns and praises right before he is to die, and God gives him a couple more years.
Yes, 15 more years, right? Something like that.
Yeah, and just... Hezekiah doesn't always seem to get it right, but he gets enough of understanding that he's able to correct and seek God. But that spiral still continues.
Right. But we have that pattern there. So 18:3. Well, so we're introduced to him as the new king of Judah. He's 25 in verse 2. And then verse 3. And he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, according to all that David his father had done. And he removed the high places. And it's interesting. And he broke in pieces the bronze serpent that Moses had made.
Yeah, that, the Nahush, I'm not going to try that. The Sustan? I did try it, whatever. But yeah, that he broke that.
It was interesting, right? Like, that too felt like it was turning to something else.
How did it become an object of worship?
I don't know. And I love verse 7. I have a star next to it. And the Lord was with him whenever he went out.
And he rebelled against the king of Assyria and would not serve him.
Yeah.
Which again, even in the midst of darkness, following in God, being where you need to be, is the right place.
Okay, and so here we get another guy from Assyria. Sennacherib. It's a pretty great name. So Sennacherib is now the king of Assyria, and he comes up against these fortified cities of Judah, and he takes them. And he requires Hezekiah to give him 300 talents of silver and 30 talents of gold. And Hezekiah does. He gives him all of this. And what was really intriguing to me is in 16, he stripped the gold from the doors of the temple of the Lord. So that was really interesting. It's almost like this like precursor. And then the Assyrians tried to talk to the people of Judah. They basically try to say, Hezekiah will not be able to save you. The Lord will not be able to save you. Just surrender, right? They're trying to get the people to just surrender is what I get, right?
Mm-hmm.
In verse 36, but the people were silent and answered him not a word, for the king's command was, do not answer him. So that's very interesting. Like, and it's interesting. This almost reminded me of, honestly, it almost reminded me of Ukraine. Right? I mean, this big empire, I don't know if we still call Russia an empire, but is right at their door and trying to conquer and trying to, like, win a mind game, too.
Yeah, it's a different political commentary to offer.
It is. But, I mean, just thinking about, like, so, I mean, the other part that was part of their nation is gone.
Yes.
Has been taken and exiled, and so they're, like, this holdout. Maybe it wasn't the best analogy.
Well, but that is what we're seeing in Ukraine.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put Russia on par with Assyria.
Yeah, probably not.
And the military might, but yeah, I mean, they have seen who are their brothers and sisters in faith. They've been divided. It's been a while since the Civil War. That was all the way back in 1st Kings and Chronicles.
That was still quite a while ago.
Yeah, about 300 years. It's been a bit.
Yeah.
But they stood their ground. They did not fall to Assyria. And part of that really is Hezekiah's with God, and God is with Hezekiah.
Yeah.
Which is what we get for the next chapter or so. And it's wonderful.
Well, and I like this little part with Isaiah. Where am I? 19:6. And Hezekiah comes to Isaiah. And he says, thus saith the Lord, do not be afraid. Behold, I will put a spirit in him so that he shall hear a rumor. He's talking about Sennacherib, and return to his own land, and I will make him fall by his own sword. But you still have this whole part, and you have Hezekiah's prayer.
So the piece, I know we haven't talked about it in fullness, but I love, especially as you get into the last half of Isaiah, that has been a wonderful closeout to what is these horrible chapters and tough moments of history. But it's the salvation that God is working and sending out, the last half of Isaiah is written towards the end, or looking towards the end of exile, and how the work and ministry of God is going to go far and wide because of it being carried into exile. And the salvation of all is beginning in this dispersion.
Yeah, it's amazing how the prophets can turn things in different directions. Yeah, and we hear a bit of it here in the end of 19, and especially verse 27 stood out to me because it's in this prophecy. It says, "But I know you're sitting down and you're going out and coming in." And it connected to me with that part we first talked about, that verse 7 and 18, "The Lord was with him wherever he went out." And it reminds me of Psalm 121. Like, now to me it almost feels like it's Hezekiah's psalm. Because you can picture that. "And lift my eyes to the hills, from where comes my help. My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. He will not let your foot be moved. He will watch over your comings and goings from this time on and forevermore." It's a beautiful song. That's one I memorized in high school when I was traveling with friends, but not my family.
It is.
Yeah. That was very interesting. Oh, hold on. The end of 19. Verse 36. This was very interesting. I'd never noticed this before. "Then Sennacherib, king of Assyria, departed and went home and lived at
Nineveh.
Nineveh." So it's like, when people read Jonah, like they had this totally different view of Nineveh. Like, right? So often for us, it's this random big city we don't know much about.
But there it is.
There it is.
And the connection is to the attempted overthrow of Judah, which would put a generational animosity.
Oh, yeah.
Huh. It's always fun when things tie together.
I know, right? Because, wait, we also read Nahum. Can we jump? Because Nahum is an oracle concerning Nineveh. And it's interesting. As I read this, I was like, it reads like a psalm, but like upside down. Because like the beginning of it's almost threatening. Like, the Lord is slow to anger and great in power, and the Lord will by no means clear the guilty. That doesn't feel like slow to anger, right?
No.
His way is in whirlwind and storm, which is not comforting. And the clouds are the dust of his feet. Like these huge images, but ones that are often for us destructive, especially if you think about the storms this summer.
So I want to pull on something that you said, that, the whirlwind and storm, that there is no comfort. And yet there were whirlwinds and storms that were in coming out of Egypt, following the pillar of cloud and the pillar of fire.
Was that a whirlwind? I mean, when you say whirlwind, I'm like, okay, Elijah was taken up in a whirlwind.
One of the ways it's been depicted is, a tornado or a fire tornado. So
that really makes those images less comforting for me.
See, I always took him again in kind of that vein with what Lewis does with Aslan. He's a lion, but he's not a safe lion.
Not safe.
And it's, if you see a people following a pillar of cloud, happily, that looks like a tornado.
Yeah, that does look insane.
And are you going to want to go and mess with
I really love
us?
that passage in Numbers. I feel like you're really killing it for me right now.
Not trying to. But it feels like that,
this
where it
pillar
seems
of cloud, like it's just like this big puffy cumulus cloud going before you, right? Come on.
See, I always took it as something that you're going to look at and have some question with.
Interesting. Okay.
That's the beauty of generations reading scripture and seeing different things.
Yes.
And no matter what, we can take it as a comfort for Israel. And at times, also the terror.
Yeah, maybe not a safe comfort. Okay, that's going to stick with me.
But God doesn't want us...
I feel like that's like the moment when I asked you if the Who's and the Grinch Who Stole Christmas were the Who's in Horton Hears a Who.
And that hurt.
Right.
It still hurts.
That's what I feel like right now.
I forgot about that.
Which, I mean, because Dashiell loves Horton Hears a Who, right? So we get it all the time, and I'm just like, it just has to be. It has to be the same. But the Grinch Who Stole Christmas now feels different when it's like
tiny.
All the Who's are here.
And the existential, that it's just a speck of dust.
Right, which is really very philosophical. So then in verse 7 in Nahum 1, it says, the Lord is good. But then it asks, what do you plot against the Lord? He will make a complete end. So it's this very interesting, like, very unsafe images of God.
Right.
And then these good sections. And verse 15 kind of haunts me a little bit. Behold upon the mountains the feet of him who brings good news, which is in Isaiah, which is a beautiful part. Is that Isaiah 51 or 53? Who publishes peace. But then it's like there's all these questions. Like the Lord is restoring the majesty of Jacob. The chariots race madly through the streets. The river gates are open and the palace melts away. Like, that's not a positive image. Nineveh is a pool whose waters run away. Like a pool that is, like, drained out. But again, Nineveh.
And again, a God who goes before his people.
Yeah. I don't know what else stood out to you in this, but chapter 3, I mean, there's 7. Wasted is Nineveh, who will grieve for her? But as it goes along, like 16, we have this section about the merchants and the princes and the shepherds. So it's like you increase your merchants more than the stars of heaven, which is like, this is different than Abraham, right? And your princes are like grasshoppers, your scribes like clouds of locusts. So like the leaders are described as plagues. But then 18, your shepherds are asleep. And that image of the shepherd in Scripture that we hear so much, the shepherds are asleep. Your people are scattered on the mountain with none to gather them. None of that shepherding. For upon whom has not come your unceasing evil? So those images are kind of haunting in Nahum.
And
What are you looking up?
Well, I was starting to wonder, chronologically, Nahum was written after Jonah. So it's not even, looking at Nineveh and God seeking the redemption that was. It's Nineveh has fallen again.
Well, I don't like that, really.
I don't like that either.
I thought this was before Jonah. When I read it, it felt like before Jonah, but I did not look it up.
I was hoping it was before Jonah, because I was like, all right, this explains a lot of why Jonah feels this way. And why Jonah is looking and saying, all right, down with Nineveh, put God's redemptive path. But according to 10 Seconds on Google, Nahum was written after Jonah.
Well, maybe there's a counter view of that.
There may be. That's more than 10 seconds. So, I don't know.
Because a part of me, in chapter 2, verse 4, the chariots race madly through the streets. They rush to and fro through the squares. They gleam like torches. I almost wonder if they were like taking this word of this prophecy, right? All over.
Well, Jonah walked how far into the city?
Not very far.
And shared a thing. So, I mean, that kind of gives that image of, okay,
right.
Jonah's walked in, and that word spreads like wildfire. So,
right.
I don't know. Maybe there is a discussion to be had on timings.
Well, and there's a difference, right, between prophecy given and prophecy written down.
Yes.
We have no idea what the chronology is of these, just to be clear.
But I think the big picture is that there's always hope that God is going to try and redeem first.
I love how we're saying this. And then we go back to Judah.
Big picture, he's working for redemption.
Because after Hezekiah, Manasseh, his son, reigns in his place.
And Manasseh was 12-ish?
Manasseh was 12 when he began to reign, which to us sounds like a child, but remember 12?
Right before Bar Mitzvah.
Yeah. And he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. And he rebuilt the high places that his father tore down, and he built the altars in the house of the Lord. And it's like he brought like all the things, everything he could find, the mediums, the fortune tellers, the omens. Didn't he like draw something, a god he made up in the house of the Lord? I didn't underline that. I think I just didn't like it. So it's really bad, right? Hezekiah gives us this hope, like he did what was good in the sight of the Lord, as Assyria is exiling the rest of Israel and Judah, this remnant. But now Manasseh comes to rule in Judah, this remnant, and it's really bad.
I think it's verse 7 of 21 that you were referencing.
Oh, he carved an image of Asherah.
That he said in the house in which the Lord said to David and Solomon his son.
Yeah.
But, yay, Hezekiah, and right back to it.
Like, even worse.
Yeah. Because then you go into Amon and did what was evil in the house or sight of the Lord.
Yeah, so Amon's his son. He's 22 years old when he began to reign.
Right.
But he only reigned 2 years. This is really interesting. He walked in the ways of his father and served the idols that his father served, right? So clearly he did not walk in the way of the Lord. But verse 23, and the servants of Amon, who is now king, conspired against him and put the king to death in his house.
Which brings us to Josiah.
This is like a movie.
Oh, it's Game of Thrones. But we get to Josiah, who is 8 years old. And
His son.
But he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord.
So for 31 years he reigns, and he does what is good, and he walks in the ways of David.
And the book of the law is found in this moment.
Yes.
And read, and the people turn, and a revival, well, our language we would call it a revival happens. It breaks out. And things change.
I know, it's amazing. Like, you read Josiah's Reforms, it's like, it's all great. It's all going to be fine. Everything's good.
We got it again. Yay!
But there's this prophecy. So, like, he hears the word of the Lord, and he turns with grief and confession. And verse 18, thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, regarding the words that you have heard, because your heart was penitent, and you humbled yourself before the Lord when you heard how I spoke against this place and against its inhabitants. I've also heard you, declares the Lord. Therefore, behold, I will gather you to your fathers, and you shall be gathered to your grave in peace, and your eyes shall not see the disaster that I will bring upon this place. So the disaster is pushed, but not gone.
And that feels a little
heartbreaking.
Well, Davidic and Solomon, where David falling for Bathsheba and the promise that the kingdom will divide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he made a covenant, and all the people made a covenant before the Lord. So there's this huge turning back. Then verse 9, right? There's always a but. However, the priests of the high places did not come up to the altar of the Lord in Jerusalem. I also restored the Passover. That was really interesting. I didn't know that they hadn't been keeping the Passover since the days of the judges. That's what 23 verse 22 implies. I was like, oh.
I missed that one. Yeah, okay.
I was like, that's interesting. And so they have, again, the Passover. And so there's this beautiful sort of summary of Josiah, 23-25. Before him, there was no king like him, who turned to the Lord with all his heart and all his soul and all his might. And verse 26, still, the Lord did not turn from the burning of his great wrath because of all the provocations with which Manasseh had provoked him. And after Josiah, it goes downhill real fast.
Well, we're chapter and a half?
Yeah.
No, half a chapter. Because middle of 24. We go through 3 kings, and we wind up in Jerusalem being captured, and the final fall of Judah, which goes into exile with Babylon.
Yeah, and it's interesting because 2nd Chronicles really abbreviates this a lot more than Kings does. Yeah, because it's only 1 chapter. So Josiah's killed in battle in 2nd Chronicles 35.
Right.
And then 36 is just Judah's decline. So you had Jehoiakim's 25. Jehoiachin was 18 when he became king. Zedekiah was 21. And all of them, they did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. And you're introduced to Nebuchadnezzar, who comes up from Babylon.
And takes Judah, destroys Jerusalem and takes Judah into captivity. And the exile begins.
Yeah. Jerusalem is plundered. It is burned. And he takes into exile, this is verse 20, to Babylon, all who escaped the sword. And they became servants to him and his son in Persia. But verse 21, to fulfill the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah, which we haven't yet read, until the land had enjoyed its Sabbaths, all the days that it lay desolate, it kept Sabbath to fulfill 70 years. It was really interesting. Like, the whole time of the exile, the land is in Sabbath? I don't know. That was very interesting.
Well, it's in a state of waste and burn.
But when I think of Sabbath, I don't think of a state of waste and burned.
Okay, there's a tree down in Georgia. It's an evergreen tree.
Okay.
And for the seed to grow, it actually has to go through fire. And so the national forests down there actually have to do prescribed burns every couple of years.
Which is very interesting right now. Very controversial in Arizona.
Yeah, well, yeah. But that's part of that tree's life cycle. And that's what I think of those prescribed burns and how it seems desolate. It seems like the land is in waste, but it's fertile.
Okay.
And it's transitioning from what is this horrific moment to a time when things will bloom again.
Okay.
I don't know. Growing up in
Interesting.
areas where a prescribed burn is normal versus...
California?
Yeah. It has a minor difference.
Well, and this is really interesting. 2nd Chronicles actually ends with a lot more hope. Because it ends with Cyrus, king of Persia.
Which that's looking ahead.
It looks way ahead. And Cyrus of Persia said, "The Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth and charged me to build him a house at Jerusalem, which is Judah. So whoever is among you of all his people, may the Lord his God be with him. Let him go up."
Which, looking way ahead, and this is what I was trying to look up, was Nehemiah.
Oh, yeah.
And I think-
I'm sure we're going to do that soon.
Yeah. But you've also got, is it Nehemiah and Zephaniah? Who are the prophets going back and helping rebuild Jerusalem. Reestablish a remnant.
Yeah, and as I'm looking back, I was like, where does it start? Because, 1st Chronicles has, all of those, so many details about building the temple. Isn't it that? But then chapter 9 in 1st Chronicles is the genealogy of the returned exiles. So 1st Chronicles, while it's going to tell the story of what happened to get to the exile, is already leaving clues of the return and the restoration.
Sorry, chronologically, it's the next book, Ezra.
Ezra.
And then
Well,
Nehemiah.
Ezra is also about the restoration.
Right. I was thinking Nehemiah was back in the Minor Prophets or something.
No. He's a history book. Yeah, I know. Ezra, Nehemiah, then
But that's-
Esther, then Job. We haven't read Job yet, have we?
No, we haven't.
I heard some amazing sermons on Job at the conference I went to, though.
Job's another one that I think pairs well with a drink.
So 2nd Chronicles, we go through these, they go into exile, but it already tells us the temple's going to be rebuilt.
Well, and the grace that we have in this moment of history is seeing how God works to restore.
Yeah.
Even in the worst of it. And you can apply that to where we're at in history. God is working somewhere in the background. And that will be revealed in time.
But sometimes you just got to sit in the mess.
Well, there's no avoiding that for the moment of history we are in.
No.
But there's always looking ahead and trusting that God is the one that is working.
Oh, but there's that wrestling, right? I mean, Israel, the name means one who strives with God. Like, there is that wrestling. Where is God in this? Where have we messed up in this? Where are we messing up in this? Why are you biting your tongue?
I'm not. I'm waiting. Because I think what we did Thursday night with Thursday's table is the beauty of that invitation to share that story and how we've each in different ways wrestled with God. Sorry, I was biting my tongue because I see this
You
connection.
got a connection, yeah.
That is,
Or that, like those moments where we find a glimpse of God.
and then sharing the stories of that. Sharing, because
We need those stories.
they enliven and enlighten each of us in different ways, and can see that God is working and moving, and where I am doesn't mean I'm stuck here.
Yes.
There is a path forward.
And we need another story sometimes to help us in those moments see that.
Yeah.
So in the midst of this huge saga, we're saying one of the things that helps is to go very small and to each find a moment to share our stories. And you know what's funny? Sometimes we don't know our own stories till we hear someone else's.
Which is true.
And then we're like, oh, I can connect to that.
It's a part of developing and growing together.
Yeah. So you're invited to join us at Thursday's table, and we're going to share more stories. This year we're doing more of a story circle and space to just take a couple moments and share the moments we found God when we didn't expect it, or wherever it leads.
Come enjoy the beauty of the evening, share some food, and hear some story.
Sometimes that's where we find hope.
Amen.
May the God of hope be with you, even in the midst of the mess. We'll see you next week.
I love my V, I V, I V.